Hello and welcome back to Horseshoe Theory, the only podcast that doesn't actively destroy its career every 6 months. Today's guest is the long-awaited P.F. Jung, a meme-smith, radical centrist, and pioneer of applied sociology. We've had this podcast planned for a month or so, but coincidentally, P.F. Jung was the last person to talk to Destiny live on stream before the nuke dropped on him, which led to an interesting conversation on whether morally compromised thinkers can make moral judgments. We talk about memes, memetics, Richard Dawkins, vibes mattering more than facts, why you should be sympathetic to the far right, irony poisoning, and how to see the best in people. If you want to hear this full episode and participate in the guest Q&A, follow us on Patreon in the link below or the pinned comment. This is one of the most interesting and fruitful episodes we've ever recorded, so we hope you get as much out of this as we did. And with that, we are pleased to bring you P.F. Jung.
So P.F. Jung. P.F. Jung.
So anyway, she said 3.5 on a Richter. I said, Richter? I hardly know her.
Knew her. oh, P.F. Jung. You maverick.
They call me Young Money. No, they don't.
Young Paul.
Young Paul. Young P.F.
You were asking something? You were saying something?
Yeah, you were the last person to see Destiny alive.
Allegedly. I was the last person, to talk to him on his...
Is that true?
Yeah.
On his live stream, like, in Miami.
I mean, because technically all the Destiny viewers saw him alive before he ended that stream, but that was the last stream.
That is true.
You were the
last guest.
You were the last guest. You were the last collaborator.
You were very productive and non-controversial.
Yeah, you were the last debate Destiny had before he fucking died.
That's actually kind of baffling. This is very serendipitous of, like, you were already coming here, and then you just happened to be, like, the literal last collaborator before Destiny's fucking nuke.
Yeah, I can't help but feel some level of synchronicity of it. Yeah, it's no good what he's gotten himself into and what he's been doing.
Yeah.
All those children.
I mean this in a non-memetic way, non-meme way. He would have benefited from watching more Jordan Peterson lectures, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Interesting. How would Destiny have benefited from Jordan Peterson lectures?
Because I think that, I think it's pretty clear that Destiny has talked about, like, he's talked with Dr. K about his, like, childhood trauma and all that stuff. It's like, my belief is, no one is operating in a vacuum. No one is just a disembodied intellect. Everything comes from a person.
You're not plucking ideas from the aether. They're coming from your own values, experiences, feelings.
You're approaching things. And, he's talked about some pretty wild, like, childhood trauma he's had and shit. And I just don't think he's ever been able to address that. And then that leads to him being a hedonist degenerate, what I think is a description he wouldn't even disagree with.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, well, what happens when you do that long enough? It's like, well, if you believe that being hedonistic is an immoral thing, then eventually you pay the price for that.
He's just not the kind of guy you can get to know well enough to get into those topics.
Yeah, you also talked to him down there.
I did, and then I killed Bridges. So you killed Destiny, I killed Bridges.
We're taking names.
Yeah.
Taking names. Does the audience need context? Do you think our audience needs context?
I don't know.
Destiny sent a video of him fucking somebody to somebody else unconsensually, and then also whether that video was filmed consensually is currently up in the air. So that's the gist of it. Those are the only two. Everything else besides that seems to just be like pointless drama.
Yeah, and now we're orbiting for clout. Now we're opening the podcast because it'll get views if we talk about it.
I think it's genuinely interesting.
It is interesting,
I don't care about the drama.
We are going to keep it. We're going to keep it in terms of, like, the staying out of the details. But there's a lot of very good abstract points to be drawn from the story. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like, don't be a hedonist.
Like don't
that,
be a hedonist.
Like there's a reason that every religion independently has converged on that. Like, that's a sin.
Yeah.
Don't be a hedonist. And it's just, I don't know, the easier, the more you do immoral shit, the easier it is to rationalize, even if it's not that immoral. It's like texting and driving. It's like, that's immoral.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't do it. Like, everyone does it. You can get away with it. But, eventually you pay a psychological price if you do things and then you rationalize. And that's the other problem. That's the double whammy I think that Destiny has. Is,
well, being sexually conservative, like Jordan Peterson advocates for, it does help you when you're in a prominent position to not get in these exact kinds of scandals.
That's true. That's one
if he was happily and monogamously married, 2, 3 nukes, 4 nukes probably would have been avoided by now.
Yeah.
I will say, in terms of the Destiny nuke, I'm just getting my point out here immediately. I don't believe that this is an irrecoverable nuke. I think every 4 to 5 months, people at the studio come by and they say it's so over for Destiny. And it reminds me, it's a very Trumpian sort of.
I was just going to say.
Little loop that we get into where it's like the walls are closing in on Trump. I think Destiny's very Trump-like. I think his audience is very like, it's a very Trump-like audience in the sense that he's been through so many scandals at this point. When you cancel yourself, you burn off a subsect of your audience. The people that remain, they're like cockroaches. You can't kill them. Doesn't matter what nukes are dropping; they're going to remain. So that's my overall broad take on the whole situation.
Yeah, I was fascinated to see the Delaban Twitter group. People making statements being like, this is it, like I can't do this anymore. This guy has no position to make moral statements, and like all the comments being like, good, get the fuck out of here, we don't want you.
Yeah,
like just vehemently defending him no matter what he does.
You know what triggered me about seeing the Dalaban is a Twitter group where the Destiny people all talk. I'm staring at the camera even though you told me not to. The DGG logo is a little blue guy with a big heart. Pull that up, Henry.
Oh fuck, dude.
Pull this gremlin up. It's a little blue guy smiling with like hearts on his cheeks, and a big heart. And I saw some people posting like, it doesn't matter what Destiny did. We're a community. You know, we all have to come together in this moment. This is our guy. And what you said, which I think is a great point, is it really should be a horrible monster ripping a 19-year-old in half with like a huge erect penis or something. Like that's a lot more.
Yeah, there's something so. I remember like when I was there too, and like in his studio, and he has like the plush beside the Bridges desk where he films, and I'm like, this thing is not. I don't like this thing. This thing feels like a demon. Like this little object, this little blue plush with hearts on it. So he's holding a heart.
It's like Annabelle. It's like it has the illusion of it's just a doll.
Yeah, there we go.
Shit.
That's a much better. Saturn devouring his 19-year-old e-girl.
Now I will say there's a shadow side to Destiny, which is a cute little agreeable. Kind guy.
Yeah, little gamer.
That exists. I've seen that too.
Yeah, cozy gamer.
And
Dr. Destiny.
Dr. Destiny and
Mr. Borelli. Yeah. Yeah, that was the whole one of my themed videos is League of Politics, which is basically just giving my opinion on different political figures.
Yeah, pull up League of Politics Destiny's champion spotlight.
Yeah, through the lens of like introducing a new character to a video game, League of Legends in this case. And I would say the crux, the main ability that I guess is relevant here is the Dr. Destiny, Mr. Borelli, because like clearly, like when he talks to Dr. K or is on Bridges, it's so he is that at his best. It's no wonder that there's so many people that like him.
This is what I noticed. He's on his best behavior on Bridges, comes across like a cool guy, someone you can talk to, someone who has like advice to give you. You know?
Yeah, and even like even though I went on his channel and argued with him for like. I think on 3 separate occasions, but it never turned into like get the fuck off my stream or anything like that. Because it's just like, if you're fundamentally rooted in respect, like I'm not here to piss you off, I'm not here to just fucking argue for the sake of arguing. Then I think he reciprocates it. But yeah, the Mr. Borelli side, that's the unresolved childhood trauma side of just anger and stuff like that. And it's like, I mean, my whole gripe has been. He just unironically says like all conservatives are literal artards. Like you have to treat them all with kids' gloves. And it's just like.
Yeah,
that is as dumb as like when I hear old conservative men say, "Well, all progressives are just fucking hate America," and it's just like, as soon as you say something like that, there's a ceiling of now how much I can take you seriously.
Yeah, I agree 100%,
and that's no good. And I mean, my whole because so many people watch him, he's important by definition. I mean, my thing is. If a lot of people pay attention to something, it's important by virtue of the fact that people pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And so, because a lot of people are like, well, why even talk to him? He's like, so, fucking dumb and all this, so fucking insane. And like, I think that's true. Like with Vosh, I debated Vosh a while ago. And then afterwards I was like, oh, I kind of know where he stands. He's just hiding his power level and just being like gratuitous on streams. And I don't really take it seriously. He's not a thought leader in my opinion. Destiny is he's certainly there are influential people that listen to him, and like again, that's why I would say he's important. And I understand why. Like if you are someone who is very intelligent, or you define yourself by your intelligence, which a lot of people do, and like fair enough, then his ability to make a career out of that and to like dominate other people and stuff, that's admirable. It's like people who like Andrew Tate. Like Andrew Tate has so many obvious fucking flaws,
Mm-hmm.
but like, well, he's super confident and he's super, and he is funny.
Yeah.
So it's
being egotistical on the internet never hurt anyone. Having a strong ego, feeling like you have an impervious ego. There's a lot of parallels to be drawn between him and other, right-wing internet characters, but he's a liberal, and a lot of people appreciated that about him.
Yeah.
I say appreciated like he's fucking dead. He will be back.
He will be back. Well, I was talking to my girlfriend about this last night because it's interesting to hear, like, she knows all these characters peripherally from me just talking about it throughout my career. And just hearing her perspective, and she was just like, it seems like this guy was trying to be a very serious figure, like going on Piers Morgan, talking to Elon Musk at one point, like all these things, like he's making like, huge moves and pivoting towards being a serious thinker. I think that's dead. Like, I think he's not going to get sponsors. Bridges potentially is over. I feel like he's just going to go back to being a streamer, and like, that's it. Anything, he's not going to talk to these like big figures anymore, because it's like, he's like, oh, this guy who's like this really divisive, angry, controversial guy who also has like a sex crime against him. That's
are we saying Destiny's not going to go on Piers Morgan again? Because I think Piers Morgan had Andrew Tate on, and talking about sex crimes, I think Andrew Tate's probably got to be.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's
maybe
it's hard to say.
It's
what has to play out. Also, the original thing that started the whole, downfall. There was another accusation too, and it's just like, I don't know.
It's dominoes when you start making that many enemies.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I believe that karma is a real thing. It's not a magical force. Like, I'm not religious in that sense. Karma's like, it's an emergent property of social interaction.
Mm-hmm.
If you are the type of person that can rationalize something immoral once, even if it's not that immoral, it just becomes easier and easier and easier and easier, and it spirals.
Yeah.
And that's what I was going to say this earlier, of like, it's a double-pronged problem for him. It's like, he spends 12 hours a day rationalizing everything and arguing. And it's like, you train that muscle. Just in principle, if you do that and you're super smart, you can literally rationalize anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, and if anyone can, it's like I'm sure his most ardent fans would agree, like, he's pretty much never really lost a debate or anything. Like, he's never really been wrong in like a serious way.
Yeah.
Certainly, I don't think he's ever come out and said, like, dude, I made a serious mistake as a human. Like, this was super wrong. I could be wrong, but I'm like, something in terms of some, like some fundamental belief. And so if anyone can make the case for some absurd, immoral thing or whatever, like, I'm sure he's capable.
Well, this is the idea of the Luciferian intellect,
Yes.
which I believe is this idea that
The devil.
it's like so much intelligence and rhetorical ability, you can convince anyone of anything. And you were saying, like, imagine, if Destiny could probably convince people of flat Earth, sort of crazy conspiracy.
And I bet everyone watching who's seen Destiny stuff knows that if Destiny had a week to prepare for the pro flat Earth side, and he had like a gun to his head, and it was like, you have to make a really good case.
Yeah.
It would be like, damn, I'm like, fuck, this is kind of compelling, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
have you ever seen the curvature? Have you personally ever seen the curvature?
Wait, have you? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you look up Earth, every photo is just is a graphic.
I mean, it looks flat to me when I go outside.
Yeah,
like that is a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah,
those aren't real pictures of the Earth.
But yeah, it's well, and this this is my whole thing of anti-intellectualism is based. Which, by the way, that was the whole journey of how I got here. I made a video called "Anti-Intellectualism is Based" like a year and a half ago. And I, on a whim, was like, I'll just tag J-Reg in and just see what happens.
Yeah.
And then
I showed JJ.
Yeah, you sent to JJ.
I was like, well, check this guy out. And JJ was like, interesting.
Yeah.
And then you started doing, a successful stream.
Yeah, JJ emailed me and was like, I don't agree with everything you're saying, but I kind of like what you're doing. And, I want to give you some exposure.
It's funny he opened with that because he hates when people say that to him. It's like, I don't agree with everything you say. He's like, you didn't have to say that.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson said the same thing one time.
And then you had also interviewed some studio friends, Jane Gatsby, CJ the X.
Yep. I'm like the CJ called me an influencer's influencer. I'm basically Klaus Schwab. You know, not everybody knows who I am, but I'm behind the scenes pulling strings. FD signifiers citing me in certain things.
Yeah. There's like that meme of all the puppets pulling the other puppets.
Yeah, that's like
Paul, you, and then Destiny, and then who's below Destiny, like Norm Finkelstein.
FD signifiers also coming by the studio.
Nice. FD. I talked to him one time offline, and he's a nice guy. I don't think he has a single person in his life that is a conservative.
Yeah,
which would explain a lot of his takes, maybe. And so, you know, if I can help play the role of obviously I'm right wing. You know, I mean, anyone who's watched my debates with Destiny know that I'm certainly right wing, and
definitely
they are
right wing, unambiguous.
They're unambiguous. It's coded in irony. Like I'm 100% fundamentalist religion. I totally do not predict that a ton of right wingers will gain an influence and then start pushing ideas that are absolutely antithetical to anything I believe in. I don't think that'll happen at all. Could never happen.
He's being ironic.
Yeah.
That's a little technique we call irony.
I know. This is the problem with centrism, as I'm sure you know.
Well familiar. And I'm sure when you talk to the Christian nationalists, you get called a lib a lot. A lib or a leftist or a communist. Yeah, gay.
Yeah.
Social justice warrior.
Look, if I'm talking to Destiny, I'm right wing compared to Destiny. If I'm talking to JJ, I'm right wing compared to JJ. If I'm talking to you guys, I'm in this weird space of like, wait a minute, there's opportunity for productive dialogue here. What's going on? This is fucked.
When talking to an anti-centrist, you are in fact a centrist.
True. It's yin and yang. I don't know.
So yeah, like what is the reaction? Because we've seen, you know, you've talked to Destiny and you got a lot of pushback, people calling you an ethno-nationalist.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, I know my way around political tribes, and you're not an ethno-nationalist.
Yeah. Just for the record, this is the non-ironic.
Maybe I wish you were an ethno-nationalist, but
yeah, it'd be more. It'd be more fun, maybe.
You got the physiognomy for it.
I appreciate that. That has to be a compliment. Unlike the what is it? The soy Jack assassin shooter physiognomy or whatever. The guy who, what's his name? The guy that tried to shoot.
The
Trump.
The first Trump shooter.
The anti.
Lee Harvey Chud.
Yeah. A lot of the negative.
Thomas Matthew Crooks.
Yeah, that physiognomy.
That's your physiognomy.
Yeah, that's what I relate to spiritually. But a lot of the negative comments were when I go into a conversation, I have one rule. The only rule that I have is do not say something that I don't honestly believe. I do not care if I sound stupid or I say something that is stupid, because I'm articulating what I honestly believe. And it's sort of an axiomatic thing where, like, obviously, would it be nice if I convinced people of something that I believe that I think is true? Yes, but that's not my goal, in the same sense that when I make a video, my goal is not necessarily to get 100,000 views on a video or whatever. It's like I want to articulate the idea I'm trying to articulate, and the views is a secondary consequence. But my goal is not the views per se. Right? Mm-hmm. That is something different. And it is something different to go on to Destiny's stream and knowing that I'm going to argue with him and say things that are in opposition to whatever he believes. You know, versus just, I mean, here's what I honestly believe, and I just want to hear how you think. And I put my trust in believing that people recognize that and go, well, he's maybe a fucking idiot, which I am. And it's probably, and I mentioned this in my reaction to that, it's like, it's probably a good thing to see a bunch of comments calling me a fucking idiot, because that's like the best way to prevent, you know, ego growth and audience capture. It's like, I'd rather have my audience be antagonistic.
Yeah.
In the long run. And we'll see, because, you know, who I am now is not who I intend to be 10 years from now. I hope to get all my stupidity Joker stuff out of the way now and become a bit more competent and all that. And like, I've learned plenty of lessons, certainly, from debating him.
Yeah.
Like, also, don't lead with, I've never actually looked into if Israel did 9/11. Maybe they did, which, to be clear, is technically true. I've never looked into it, and so therefore maybe they did. But, you know, that gets into the whole, we need to lean in and be charitable towards even people we find disgusting. And I'd say the same thing about, you know, whatever, people on the far left or far right. And that's a whole other...
it was pretty viral snippet I kept seeing, just you saying that.
I posted it on my Twitter too.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, like,
I mean, I've never looked into it either.
but like saying that, okay, well, what has that done for? It's like, well, it frees me up. Like, I'm not, like, I'm just gonna say what I honestly believe. And
Henry, pull up a
see
steel
how
man
that-
for Israel doing 9/11. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
yeah, Google dancing Israelis, which I have Googled. I like read it for like 2 minutes. And I was like, I'm not gonna even look into this. It's almost like on principle. Like, I don't even want to look into it, just because it's like the underlying principle. We could talk about Zog maybe. Is just like, that's such a common meme. Israel did 9/11. That's such a common joke amongst like the anti-Israel crowd. It's like, okay, well, are there valid reasons to be anti-Israel at this point in history? I would say, yeah.
Mhm.
Even people like, Destiny or whatever would certainly agree. The subtler issue being the number one thing. Most Israelis are against that. So it's like, well, I would rather have the genuine anti-Semitic sentiment that's mixed in with the valid anti-Israel sentiment, Israel as a secular political state, allegedly a secular state, be directed towards something productive. Like, let's all be against the subtlers. Forget the fucking Jews as a race are running the world and shit like that. And it's so nonsense and just psychotic and mentally ill to axiomatically be opposed to someone on the basis of their genetics.
Yeah.
But there are people out there like that, and I'd rather direct that sentiment towards Zog.
Yeah.
The U.S. The fact that Zionism is a dominant ideology in U.S. politics, which is an indisputable fact, and why we just give them aid and don't condition it on getting rid of the subtlers or anything like that.
Really is a boomer versus Zoomer divide, I think. Anti-Israel sentiment.
For Zog?
Pretty the Zoomers are pretty anti-Zog, across the board.
Yeah, man.
Just to be clear, I wouldn't have said it unless Greg made the video on
I did popularize
on
the
Zog.
term Zog, which has
Yeah.
been catching on. Joshua Citarella uses the word Zog.
Yes,
and,
known
and
ethno-nationalist Joshua
ethno-nationalist
Citarella.
Joshua Citarella, left accelerationist, social democrat.
Yeah.
I think we've deterritorialized the term pretty successfully.
Yeah.
And if leftists are using the term Zog, I mean, what does Zog mean? Zionist occupied government. I canvassed for Jamal Bowman. A bunch of far leftists, a bunch of progressives. Why were we there? It's because Israel poured a bunch of money into a status quo candidate against a anti-Israel candidate. Where was that money coming from? What would you call that? If that's not Zog, I don't know what Zog is.
It is, it's indisputable that Zionism is the dominant political. There's Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary, says Zionism is Americanism, or Zionism is American, or something like that.
Yeah,
and it's just like, I'm a big believer in co-opting memes for your own ends. Like you said, deterritorializing it.
Yeah.
It's the same principle. It's like, Zog is a good meme just on the face of it. Zog, it sounds like Evil Emperor Zurg.
It works.
Yeah.
From like
Evil
Buzz
Wizard.
Lightyear.
Yeah. Evil Wizard Zog.
So it's an acronym. It's 3 letters. JOG would not work if it was Jewish occupied government. That would not be what I'm concerned with, because Christian Zionists are one of the biggest constituents. So it's a different thing.
Christian occupied government.
Yeah.
And you can. It's memeable too. WOG, whitey occupied government.
Dude, all my dogs hate on Zog.
All my dogs hate
all
on
my dogs
Zog.
are mogging on Zog.
All my dogs mog on Zog.
Like that alone will just be like, damn.
Clip that.
Some zoomer's gonna be out there like,
all my dogs mogging on Zog.
Anytime Israel does something bad, yeah. And it's
I might write a rap song about this.
All my dogs mog on Zog.
I mean, and then it's like, well then, like, do you think that, let's say the Nick Fuentes type people or the Sam Hyde people, do you think they're happy that people who are utterly opposed to their like racialism bullshit are now co-opting their memes? Like, guys, Zog is just about ultimately the subtle. It's the subtler issue is kind of the most rubber meets the road type thing, because it gets into all these deeper issues about like religious fundamentalism and ethno supremacy and all that. But like, that's the most practical issue. So if Nick Fuentes and them are like, well, dude, fuck, they're taking our meme and they're making it something not. It's supposed to be Jewish, not Zionist.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, the people who say, if you use Zog, you're advancing anti-Semitic talking points. They're using you. It's like, that's what you think.
Yeah.
It is what they think.
It is sort of it is a great way to defeat evil. Like these euphemisms, this etymological progression of words and co-opting words for your own
Rob
meaning.
them of their valid talking points.
Yeah.
And then they're left with hating on wife Jack or whatever, right? It's like, that's what, if that's what Nick Fuentes is going to be known for. fair enough. That's cringy enough that'll, reduce his ability to spread his, the more racialist bullshit.
So, thesis statement for the audience. Your political project is dedicated to fighting the excesses, the extremes, the degeneracy of both sides, as you call it, the freak left and the freak right.
Yeah, that's a term from Edmund Smirk, who's a Twitter account user who, I think he's conservative, but freak left and freak right.
You're familiar with Edmund Burke, the Burkean conservative?
Yes.
So that's clearly what he's...
A wink and a smirk.
Well, that's clearly what he's referencing there. So yeah, like a moderate right-winger.
Yeah, but he came with that terminology. But yeah, I mean, my whole thing is, my fundamental motivation is addressing political polarization, addressing division. And a lot of that, if not most of it, stems from childhood, where I grew up in a household that was like constantly fighting in pretty bad ways. And so I was the mediator. That is how I'm wired, for better or worse. And I just see it playing out with the political realm. It's like the right obviously has some good points some of the time.
Yep.
And the left has some good points some of the time. Self-evident to everyone who's not terminally online or playing a team-based game, which like Democrats and Republicans, because they're part of like the party, it's like an actual institution. They have to be like whatever. So there's a lot of that, but everyone knows that there are reasonable conservatives and reasonable progressives and reasonable conservative points and reasonable progressive points. And my thing is somehow provide a meme, radical centrism, enlightened centrism, whatever, that gives a touch point of, hey, not to be, I'm on the left, but like I do agree with the conservatives here. I'm on the right and I do agree with the left here. And I think providing that memetic foundation allows people easier ability to articulate here's what I do disagree with this other side.
How it feels being a radical centrist.
I know it's a cross I have to bear. But also it's like, it is most people like most people don't even care about politics to begin with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So to like, despite what the memes are about, centrism is just right wing in disguise, which is of course what the left wingers believe. But you hear the exact same thing from the right wing.
You do.
It's progressivism with a speed limit is centrism or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, most people recognize it. I'm not going to tailor my message to, only the people who are terminally online who have no influence in real life. So I think it's moving along. There is a danger in identifying too much with a label.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to make this meme specifically great again. Because it can go off the wires. And if other people start using it, then it becomes a no true Scotsman. Whoa, this person's not actually centrist. Okay, I don't want Richard Hanania or whatever calling himself a centrist.
Yeah. I mean, it is just pragmatism, like finding what works. There was a comment left on one of our podcast episodes that said, if anything, this podcast has made me politically pragmatic and post-ideological. I think I don't know how you feel, but that's I hate it. I know you hate it. That's my goal. That's like, I feel like my ideological project is to look at things pragmatically and like just find what works, what doesn't work. But playing these team games just makes no sense. And then, like you said, with people who are popular by the virtue of their popularity are obviously provide importance to their audience. You can say that like about Andrew Tate. The amount of like critics Andrew Tate has, and like fair enough. But obviously there was a void to fill that he filled by virtue of how popular he was. And like, okay, let's look at what that void is and how we can talk about that in a way that's productive and not just through Andrew Tate and not just denying the void exists.
Right.
Like. Men of a lack of meaning. Here's a guy that comes along. He's like, oh, it's all about responsibility. Also, like, fucking have 9 wives.
Yeah.
Cool. They can keep the responsibility part, leave the 9 wives part behind.
It's pure materialism.
And leave the responsibility.
I'm a big fan of that's like fair. When, I don't like Jordan Peterson's like self-help stuff, but I do like when he hates trans people. So like my room's really messy, but I'm like, trans people.
That's a... Like I think Martin Luther King is one of the ultimate like radical centrist figures, because no matter who you are, there's something to like about him. Like conservatives like Martin Luther King because he, content of your character, not the color of your skin.
Meritocratic.
Yeah, and progressives like him because he was a socialist and fought for economic inequality.
Yeah,
and I like him because he hated gay people.
Oh, yeah. Fred Hampton, kind of in that.
Was Fred Hampton also the way? By the way, that's a joke. I don't like Martin Luther King because he hated gay people. People forget about that, though. He was a Southern Baptist minister.
That makes
1960.
That makes sense.
If Ted Cruz said what Martin Luther King said about gay people, there'd be a big problem.
Do you know the story of Fred Hampton?
Yeah, he got assassinated by the FBI.
Yeah, he got assassinated after he started reaching out to poor white people.
Of course.
Yeah, he went out to because where was he based? Baltimore, Chicago? Do you remember?
I don't know. I think Chicago, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Not based on the content of their character, but where their penis goes.
He left the city. He's a Black Panther. Do you know Fred Hampton?
Of course I know Fred Hampton. You talk about Fred Hampton all the time. You got a short on Fred Hampton, don't you?
Well, actually,
No.
so I didn't.
No. Don't you have a story explaining the Fred Hampton situation?
No, we have a short on the horseshoe theory because I explained it. I've explained it before.
About Fred Hampton.
Anyway, yeah, but when I was like, wait a minute, it's class, it's not race, went out to rural white churches and was like, hey guys, like our lives fucking suck. Why don't we team up?
Yeah.
FBI put him down.
Which is a whole nother thing of why I'm very sympathetic to a lot of the right wing stuff is because a lot of it's right wing popular, although it's also left wing populist. This is the other thing, like it is populism versus more establishmentarianism or something like that.
Status quoism.
Yeah. Which I don't know. Would the status quoism people identify as self status quo? Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well,
but like I didn't like the whole COINTELPRO thing. It's like it's objectively true that the FBI assassinated a civil rights leader.
Yeah.
Like indisputable. They for sure had foreknowledge of what was going to happen to Malcolm X. He was killed by actually the Nation of Islam, his former what do you call it?
Wait, are you talking about Martin Luther King or Fred Hampton?
No, Malcolm X.
But with the FBI, you said indisputably the FBI killed a civil rights leader. Which one are you talking about? Fred Hampton.
And
Okay.
probably the FBI too.
Well, we're gonna find out. He just signed the order
Yeah,
to
that would
release
be
all those
interesting.
documents, and so
Well,
45 days we'll find out.
Yeah, like if I was trying to give the first red pill to someone about like the corruption of the establishment, it's like go look up the letter that the FBI wrote to Martin Luther King telling him to kill himself. It's called the FBI King letter.
I didn't know that this existed.
It's written like a fucking mob, like literally you know what to do.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, and you know
I've never seen this.
Yeah, it's literally.
It was after he cheated on his wife or something, right?
Yeah, well, that's why the FBI was bugging his home. That's why there's all the tapes of him having affairs. So the FBI did that. So the idea that our intelligence agencies are not capable of that, or that's not the norm,
Yeah.
then you look at Operation Northwoods, the Joint Chief of Staffs in 1960-something, prior to Cuban Missile Crisis, or maybe a little bit right after that, was the Operation Northwoods was the Joint Chief of Staff signed on plans to say we're going to arm Cubans with weaponry to blow up civilian installations to justify an invasion of Cuba. Indisputable. No one disputes it. So it's like, why would my default not be, then you have something like the fucking New Orleans guy with the ISIS flag, or it's like, my first instinct is going to go, we have to consider the possibility that this was something like a psyop or an op internally.
Yeah.
And they've been doing that even like in the last 10 years. There was a Texas shooter. I didn't know this. Who he went to a mall. There was it was like a cartoon contest drawing of Muhammad or something like that. Like, you know, freedom of speech, you can criticize religion, which you should be able to. And he was going to go shoot it up. And for 6 months, the FBI was in contact with him, and the FBI agent told him verbatim, go tear up Texas. And then he goes, opens fire. The Texas FBI are there to shoot him immediately.
Yeah.
But it's like, they do this all the time. So, you know, I'm very, at minimum, if someone says like, man, I think the government's out there, like they're fucking evil. It's like a lot of this QAnon shit. I'm like, you know what? My first instinct before I write you off and invalidate you is like, yeah, how could you possibly not understand why someone would arrive at that conclusion?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
My takeaway, you know, another man of color that was hated by the establishment and had a lot of poon? Andrew Tate.
Umar Johnson. Oh.
So maybe Andrew Tate is the Martin Luther King of our generation.
You know, when he went to prison, I was like, Malcolm X went to prison for a few years and he came out like hardcore Muslim. I was like, but he was only in prison for how long, Andrew Tate? Like 2 months or 3 months or something like that?
Yeah. Well,
he would need to be there for a couple years. And then
I don't know.
Maybe he could have his Malcolm X.
I don't know if he would have
ascension.
come out the same. I mean, he already came out pretty severely traumatized. He tweets a lot like, I still have nightmares from that night.
Yeah, he's also, he had a conversation with a therapist. It's like a whole full-on, talks about his childhood and all that.
Yeah, it was a
it's
fascinating conversation.
The only Andrew Tate interview I would listen to.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, what his dad did to him and the way his dad, you know, like emotionally abused him, basically. It's like, oh, maybe if people had more empathy for that, it'd be easier to understand where people are coming from.
You know what? The one that fucked me up, as someone who is like, I try not to be contrarian in the sense where like, you know, they people who are contrarian are just as dictated by opinions as someone who believes in all of them, right? Like, I'm just gonna pick the opposite side. Like, I try to avoid that as I get older. So, but I do have this sense where it's like I am very like liberal and like up for like center left. Someone's like, oh, this like conspiracy. I'm like, whatever. Like, I want to take the contrarian stance because it seems like conspiracies are just, it's so open. Everyone's so happy to like call things conspiracy now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'd rather push back against it. I feel like that's a better position to be in right now. But the one that broke me was the Vegas shooter.
The paddock or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever.
that one fucking, there's not a single detail about that makes sense.
So that's an example of something that like I know that there are weird. I don't know what the details are or whatever, but it's just like it's like I don't need to. My heuristic is already, well, the government's capable of doing weird shit, and there's all kinds of weird conspiratorial shit going on.
Yeah.
So even if I go through this whole thing, I'll go, yeah. It's like my worldview doesn't change that much because I'm already defaulted to that. But it's the anti-conspiratorial people who are like, well, no, it's all. Bullshit.
He got like almost 1,000 pounds of weaponry into a hotel room and no one saw it. Killed 50 people with a helicopter gun, basically. And his brother the next day was arrested for having 10,000 terabytes of child porn. The day after the shooting, or 2 days after the shooting, something like that.
Yep.
On a 90s Windows computer.
Yep.
So like, there's so many details about that. I'm like, this is either the world's greatest coincidence and the world's biggest blunder. Like, just everyone turned a blind eye, or like, there's something here.
And the denial of that furthers the extreme variations of that. Like, if you can't acknowledge that the FBI killed Fred Hampton, or that they had Operation Northwoods, or they did all these things, denying truth then causes people to go, okay, well, I can't trust this guy, so I'm gonna fucking go down the, soap is actually bad for you or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you can't wipe it off. Like, I remember seeing a video on Twitter where it was like, soap, when you wash your hands with soap, it actually stays on your hands. And the guy would like take a video of him washing his hands and then not put any water on it, be like, see, it's still bubbling. I was like, oh my God, how does this happen?
There's I don't know. I mean,
legs.
hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Put hand
Big
sanitizer on,
big sanitizer
and then your skin's permeability is increased by so much.
Yeah.
You can actually get stuff in. And if you touch receipts, the guy that
Well, that's real. The xenoestrogen.
yeah, the
type shit.
xenoestrogens get in. But if you
I
put
know,
hand sanitizer on before you handle a receipt, you get way more xenoestrogens.
I didn't use
Really?
any hand sanitizer through the entirety of COVID. I refused to.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I got kicked out of stores for that.
Yeah, but even just the concept of like BPAs are like an endocrine disruptor, and like there's a lot of shit in our food that is like reducing testosterone. Like, that's indisputably true.
Yeah, this is what Joshua Citarella would talk about on his live streams. He would like take Alex Jones' talking points and be like, yeah, they are turning.
Yeah, and he said it to Destiny, and Destiny was like, "Whoa, wait a minute."
Yes,
and there is truth.
It destroys the average liberal's mind.
Yeah, well, there is truth. Like, obesity rates have risen, and so that obesity reduces testosterone. But it's like that's not the only factor.
You know what's crazy is obesity rates continue to rise, but the average calories consumed per day hasn't risen in like 20 years.
Sugar,
Really?
insulin spikes. Insulin's high all the time, and you
Interesting.
store the fat as fat.
Yeah, that's the other thing. The whole like RFK, Make America Healthy Again movement. I'm like, I believe that was one of the key contributing factors to his victory. There's so many like suburban mom type people who are like, yeah, I don't want to give my kid shitty food and all that, and like, oh, there's a guy that's
There it is.
go
back to that chart. Yeah.
who's talking about it.
Yeah, I think someone willing to address the problem.
Yeah.
It's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Henry, can I get a glass of water? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to like, and I don't know. It's hard to give credence to these things without losing. I can understand why someone takes the contrarian position of never giving credence to any of these ideas and everything is exactly how it seems, and also why someone would lose their mind to it. And to like strike that balance, to walk that line is fucking so hard.
So this is how I feel about like UFOs and aliens. Like, I don't look into it at all.
Yeah.
Even though like there are news, like indisputable, there's UFOs. We don't know what they are. What the fuck? I'm just like, if it's aliens, I can't fit that into my worldview, that I'm just not going to devote any energy to it.
That's fair. Yeah.
And
Well, like people who are
I'll
like,
cross that bridge when I get there, I guess. But like, I don't know. It's just, so I understand people want to compartmentalize.
yeah,
Like, I don't want to think about, well, Jesus, if if there's shit in our food, or if the government, the FBI assassinated a civil rights leader, like, what else do I have to fucking not believe in? It's like, not that much, really. It's
yeah.
it's just it's there's corruption and there's good people in it too, and all that. And there are conspiracies that go too far.
Yeah.
It's
I mean, it
it's
goes.
radical centrist balance. It seems very intuitive to me, I guess, but not.
It goes back
Others.
to pragmatism. It's like that classic like 16-year-old stoned thought where you're like, what if it's all simulation? And it's like, well, that would have no effect on your life.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
It's like the free will question.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And I'd like to hear like an Alex O'Connor. If I was to talk to Alex O'Connor, I'd ask him, what are the implications of this then? Exactly. I'm sure he's answered it somewhere and I could just find a clip, but, but he's like I think he's a pretty strong advocate that we don't have free will. And it's like, okay, so what then? How does my life change now? Or that if we are in a simulation, it's like pain is not simulated because I experience it.
Yeah.
So, well, you could simulate the experience of pain. It's like, well, now we're just in the territory where words aren't meaning what we think they mean, because I don't know how you would. The experience of pain is a real thing in and of itself phenomenologically. So if you're simulating it, you're still experiencing it.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it real. And
Yeah.
so, there's like a breakdown at that point. But
I mean, I feel like I was a huge Sam Harris guy, and a couple of years ago, and he pretty much like I've been convinced of determinism through him in a way like I can't like really think myself out of, but like nothing changes.
Nothing changes, yeah.
Nothing
What
changes.
is the pragmatic utility of determinism? Like, what does that do for you to believe that?
Yeah, well, certainly in your own life, determinism is the basis of a lot of science, which is like, we can produce cool technology with it.
You ever seen quantum foam, buddy?
What's quantum foam?
It's the complete randomness at the center of the universe.
Quantum foam, buddy?
Oh, I'm talking to determinists, no free will people. When you get small enough on a physical level, physics doesn't even agree with determinism and free will and anti-free will, because on the quantum level, there's so much random shit happening that you actually like. There's millions of timelines splitting off at all times.
That whole multiverse thing. It's like a lot of people say it's real. Okay, and I'm branching out here just to use as a philosophical discussion, but like people say, okay, the multiverse is real. David Deutsch is big physicist, knows for a fact it's true. He says or something like that. It's like, okay, so let's say the multiverse theory is correct. There are different universes. Every decision you make is a split off. Do we owe moral consideration for those other universes? Like, are those real? Like, what is reality then if those universes are real, quote unquote?
No,
and to what degree do I owe moral consideration?
I want to be able to save.
It's a literally impossible thing to even conceptualize.
I want to be able to save a state, and we saw like a big crane, and we were like, you should like save a state and then go and then like use that crane to smash a building, and then that remains as a universe where the building's smashed and life is terrible for everybody, but you just like dip out.
Yeah, there's this horrible, you save the state, create this horrible reality where like for the next 100 years, Toronto has like a Memorial Day for the crane terrorist attack on College Street.
Yeah, I know. I want there to be moral considerations, and then I want to do the worst thing possible in those alternate universes.
Well, that gets into like this idea of like
Rick and Morty.
the rational machine that eats itself. It's just like
Tower of Babel, yeah.
Yeah, you can just kind of, if you start considering everything and you get to a point where like your own existence doesn't matter for like what could, I mean, do you know like the what are they called? The effective altruists, right? Do you know that?
Yeah, it's like how do we maximize charity per dollar or something like that?
Yeah, so there's effective altruists who are just so in the goo, like they're so abstract. They're like, because by the virtue of there being more human life in the future than there is now, we should like completely sacrifice our existence to preserve, because it's all about saving the maximum amount of human life.
Yep.
So like 10,000 years from now, there's more human life than there is human life right now, given like just the growth of the population.
Autism.
So it's a hyper autistic calculation, which on like logically or like antinatalism, like they're very rational people who are antinatalists.
Yeah.
It's like,
According to my calculations.
yeah, it's like, well, okay, I'm sure. I mean, if I debated an antinatalist, I'm sure logically he'd be able to out logic me. And then it's like, okay, so well, now what? What are we concluding that like, all right, we should just get rid of existence? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, exactly. I mean, so many of those arguments end up with what now? Should we just fucking kill ourselves?
Yeah.
Right? That is like the like terminal philosophies that end in just like, okay, human life shouldn't exist.
That's why axiomatic beliefs are good, and finding things that we can all agree on axiomatically. For example, Brogan's catchphrase, never kill yourself.
Yeah.
That's a great, postmodern, let's drag something from the ether and let's examine it. And then this is our baseline now. So I'm not going to consider an antinatalist talking point because I don't think you should kill yourself.
Yeah.
Although they would probably say like you shouldn't have kids and that you not killing yourself is fine.
Some of them are like, well, we should end. I don't know. It's like
then do it.
Bye
bye.
Hey, you're in Canada. Didn't Jordan Peterson get dragged in front of the Human Rights Tribunal or whatever because he said if you don't like this planet, you can leave or something like that? I think that was one of the citations.
Your psychologist tells you to kill yourself.
What I was going to say is that's an example of there is an Overton window of ideas that you should be able to engage with.
Yeah.
And then there are some ideas that you axiomatically should use social mechanisms to simply marginalize and not even entertain. Like there's certain ideas, and I do think a lot of it's built into our like sense of disgust, where like, for example, there are ideologies that where people want to normalize certain relations between adults and children.
Yeah.
It's like, I think there's a case to be made that you don't even engage with that rationally. It's just this is an axiomatic line. This is wrong. This is evil. Marginalize, fuck it up.
I agree. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that rationality is a false god.
Yeah.
And logic's a false god. Like we are not rational. We're not logical creatures. We're emotional driven. We should have those things where it's like, I'm not going to argue this. No.
I would say there is, to the degree that I understand it, there is fairly, I would say, decent justification for it in terms of like Gödel's incompleteness theorem is this mathematical proof.
Girls incompletion?
No, Gödel's.
Oh, I thought you said girls incompletion theorem.
Yeah, like the girl's not complete yet.
Goedes, Gödel's.
But once the girl's complete, you can do whatever you want.
The girl's incompleteness theorem.
Jesus Christ.
But there's all these mathematical arguments that like a system cannot justify itself logically, all these different things. My intuition, this is just my fundamental intuition, and like also why I would say I lean towards being religious, whatever that means. Reality, the fact of reality is non-rational. There's no rational justification or explanation for why existence is. So the idea that we can follow rationality to some point that terminates, it's like, dude, the very game we're in is fundamentally irrational. So why would you assume that you can use rationality to like prove itself?
You even see this with Alex O'Connor's whole character arc. Is starting off as an atheist, and then now look where he is. He's a lot more open-minded, a lot less, in the cult of rationality, so to speak.
Very Jordan Peterson.
Very Jordan Peterson-esque.
Yeah.
And that's why he's the kind of person that can mediate a debate between Jordan Peterson and who's
Dick
the other
Dawkins.
guy? Dawkins, yeah.
Dickie Dawkins.
The two sides of your brain arguing, the symbolic and
left, right brain,
mystic side,
autism, schizophrenia,
autism versus schizophrenia. Yeah, Jordan Peterson's schizotypal, I believe it. Schizotypy. There's a description of it which is like you confuse symbols for reality. I'm like, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, when it gets into like archetypes and stuff like that, like what's more? I mean, there's all kinds of shit. Jordan Peterson his maps of meaning is sort of at like the bedrock of a lot of my worldview and philosophy. I think the way he purports himself is ridiculous in some sense, where like the whole Richard Dawkins versus Jordan Peterson debate, they're like, do you think Cain and Abel were real people? Yes or no? He's like, it doesn't matter whether it's like, yeah, just answer the question.
Yeah.
And I think Alex O'Connor is very good at extracting that out of him. But I am sympathetic to the point that Peterson's making in theory, but just from a communication perspective, it's like, you're not making the point that you think you're making there, and it makes you look squirrely. But the most interesting to me in that was the synthesis at the end. Like everyone, somehow they're like, oh, Peterson says the biological reality of dragons and all this. It's like at the end, they talked about how Richard Dawkins was like, oh, this is fascinating. The idea of Jungian archetypes being a biological phenomenon that was assimilated through what's called the Baldwin effect, which is this, biological process or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, interesting. That's a synthesis. Super smart people. Richard Dawkins, who's more anti-symbol than anyone, was like, damn, all right, I can get behind that. It's like, cool. We need to explore that. That is now the forefront of at least what I'm interested in philosophically, and I think that's where a lot of value can be found. Which brings us to the whole, vibes versus logic thing.
Vibes versus logic.
I do want to see a schizophrenic Jordan Peterson bit where like he's looking at a pile, like a unmade bed, but he's actually seeing a dragon. Like in his vision, like this actually.
There's a dragon on the unmade bed.
This is a tangent. I have this like. I have this idiosyncratic like thing in my head about like dice rolls when you're born with schizophrenia or autism, where like you can get good autism that's like computer coding. You can get good schizophrenia where you're like a philosopher, or you get bad where it's like things that don't make sense, or like trains. And Jordan Peterson just has the best dice roll of schizophrenia where he's actually seeing the dragon. And he's like actually in his vision seeing it and believes it's real, but then it can articulate it in a way that like is actually useful to people.
Well, I'll steel man the argument for that. The schizophrenic argument for that is when you look at like if you walk into a room and it's like all like a hoarder, right? When you see that, the part of your brain that is active when you see like a threatening animal is the exact same part of the brain. Or if you get like an email that says you've just been fired, the part like when you perceive that, your limbic system, the more emotional part of your brain, is processing that exactly the same way that it would process like a fucking tiger threat or something like that. So in his mind, the argument is, well, the category of threat is more real than the threat itself because your brain, your limbic system evolved prior to the ability to articulate anything and know what things were in and of themselves. It was all, related to whether or not it helped you survive or whatnot. So in that sense, it's like, well, he does see the dragon there. You see a fucking pile of clothes. It's like, this is the thing that's inhibiting me from living life or whatever, which is exactly what a fucking predator would be or something.
Yeah.
And I do think that people, I mean, that, you can take or leave all that shit. I think that's at least understanding that view of things of like something is real in terms of the psychological effect it has on you. That's what's more real, quote unquote, in terms of how you should operate. And I think that's valid.
certainly align more with the schizo side of the schizo-autism dichotomy. Although,
I'm more
the
on
autism's there, of course.
I'm definitely more on the, like, between me and Destiny, I would definitely be the schizo and Destiny would be the autist.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that game between any two.
I know. Yeah, it is. It's like a Hegelian dialectic thing.
Oh, that is. Who's the schizo? Who's the autist? That's a fun game.
Yeah.
It is a fun game.
Yeah.
What do you think? Do you think I'm more schizo or more autist?
I don't know. We're both pretty schizo in some ways, and we're both pretty autistic.
Because you guys are artists, so you're going to lean more schizo in general. Who's the
Yeah.
more vertical thinker and who's the more horizontal thinker? Which is, I think, a good way to conceptualize it.
I subscribe to horizontal. I do this. I feel like I talk this a lot with like Sneeko, obviously.
Mhm.
Yeah. So like Sneeko's an artist. Artists make horrible political pundits because they're so credulous. Yeah. And that's so clearly Sneeko's fault, is that he'll just like believe anything and like can be convinced of anything, which is fine. Makes great art, very open. The second you start trying to like crystallize yourself, there's nothing there. And I've noticed that in myself, and I try to not do it as much.
Yeah. I mean, this is I'm going back to like, I'm happy to look like an idiot as long as I'm being authentic, because that's the best long-term strategy. And you say, well, there's costs to that because I could be purveying misinformation. It's like, that's true. And I certainly have said things that are wrong. And you need to consciously be aware of that and stuff. But, I think part of things are so complicated that you will never be fully correct or even like mostly correct. Well, you can be mostly correct, I guess. You can be closer or further from the truth.
Yeah.
But in order to become, my goal is not to identify the truth as I understand it right now. That is one of my goals. My goal is to become the kind of person who is capable of doing that. And, that involves saying that maybe Israel did 9/11. I don't know. So
it's a long-term game, but it's an important one to play. That pays off much later in life.
Yeah, playing the long game instead of a bunch of short games that you win.
Look, you're not there to win the game.
A broader.
Yeah, you're there to win the meta game.
Reminds me of someone winning short-term games and looking good in like short-term debates, but then in the long term, making a bunch of enemies and not.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's on the tip of my tongue. I think I was thinking about Jordan Peterson or something.
Oh yeah, fate.
Yeah, well,
it was fate.
Now that Jordan Peterson's joined
about Malcolm X.
Now that Jordan Peterson's joined the Israeli Wire, it's not as. But
he's just saying saying what's true to him, and what's true to him is that.
I don't believe that. You know what's funny? Like Brett Cooper left. You know Brett Cooper?
Yeah.
Okay, Brett Cooper, I don't believe is a whack job. Maybe she is. But I'm pretty sure they have her under NDAs. Same with Candace Owens. I have a level of faith. I'm holding out.
Henry, go back to Brett Cooper picture.
I have a level of faith that Peterson is seeing that, like, goddamn, why am I at a company where they're silencing people and making them sign NDAs when I'm the free speech guy? Like that has got to be eating at him, I think. But I don't know.
Another free speech guy L. One of countless free speech guy L's.
Well, and it's like this is the problem, and this is something I know I have as an explicit thing in my mind. It's like, no matter how many people call me a right winger, I will never join the Daily Wire. I will never join an organization that's explicitly right wing.
That's because you're far right ethno-nationalist.
True, yes. They're too fucking left for me. But like Jordan Peterson, he'll do a podcast now, and they'll interrupt the podcast to do an ad read for like a pro-life ad reading thing. It's like, yo, you can be pro-life, and I am to some degree. At a certain point, you shouldn't be aborting shit, but like you just thrown yourself in entirely with someone who I don't even know if he agrees with.
But have you ever had money like a lot of money for
Yeah,
doing
easier,
that.
Yeah, no, easier said than. That's
Yeah,
why.
I do forget that that money.
Oh, I forgot about money.
I'm pretty sure he was making plenty of money.
Yeah,
prior to that, but-
does he
I mean,
really
he,
need more money?
he canceled his Patreon on principle because Sargon of Akkad got kicked off.
So you would think he just agrees with those principles.
Which,
that was like over $1 million a year.
Man,
he just threw away.
Yeah, those are the things where it's like, I'm standing on my principles. It's like, yeah, but you got to think about this because now you're with the Daily Wire. So who won out there in the end in terms of principles and all that? But
So freak right, freak left. Your view is that there are elements on both sides that are bad. What disgusts you most on both sides? What's like the primary, like, I'm going to shut this off and not consider this on both ends?
well, on the right, it's probably the racialist stuff of like people who, as a political goal, actually are like, let's try and get black people out of the country. You know, like that, like the kind of person that dedicates time to that. I think the head of the what's his name or what's that group, Patriot Front. You know, the guys that they look like feds, where they all have the masks and the shields, like Captain America shields.
Oh yeah.
They're all wearing the head of that. I listened to an interview with that guy. I think his name's Thomas Rousseau or. No, it's something Rousseau, I think. It's not a combination of Thomas Hobbes and Rousseau. Head of Patriot Front. Oh, it is Thomas Rousseau. Yeah, that guy. He's like, they're like, what is an American neo? I was like, well, ultimately, it is white. It is white. It's like, okay. So what? Fucking Kobe Bryant's not American?
Yeah.
Like, are you fucking joking? Frederick Douglass is not American? Like, it's so absurd on the face of it. It's the equivalent of being terminally online. Like, only someone who is not in real life could unironically think, well, as part of our real political project that I'm going to dedicate time to, is like, we'll deport black people or some shit like that, or try and advocate for racial separation. That's pretty fucking freakish, I would say. The ultra fundamentalist stuff is fucked up. And then on the left, it's a lot of the people who are like, yeah, 12-year-old can and should be given puberty blockers and, have their breasts cut off.
Or even on the we lost 15 anarcho-capitalist viewers as soon as you said that children and adults shouldn't have relationships. So, guys, I'll make a pro-pedophilia point next episode. Just stay subscribed.
Yeah, actually, that's in the Patreon. We have a pro-pedophilia special.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
$5. The end caps can afford it. So
yeah, there you go.
Well, that's a good place to groom children, according to...
Discord's number one purpose is grooming children.
Did you see that
community organization?
Snapchat's up there too. Yeah.
Hawkcoin. Someone was like analyzing Hawkcoin on chain and looking at all the movements. So Moodang, the hippo. Someone, wow. Are you
the cute little hippo?
Cute hippo?
Yeah, cute hippo.
Cute hippo. This is a thing that men in relationships only know about through their girlfriends. There's a Moodang meme coin. Someone moved $1.4 million out of Moodang into Hawkcoin and then lost 90% of the portfolio in Hawkcoin.
Hawkcoin mean Hawktua?
Hawktua, yeah.
Yeah, the Moodang to Hawkcoin transfer was a disaster. I lost my life savings.
Yeah. More than life savings. Like the totality of your net worth you've built for like 10 years probably.
Yeah, gone.
I made $1,000 on Dogecoin.
Did you?
Yeah, I put some in there and then sold it. And then it crashed and all that. But I know someone else who had like 40 or 50,000 and kept it. It's like, this is not diamond hands here. You're not doing it for some moral thing. It's just a scam.
We'll see how the Trump coin does.
It's already down. Everyone moved up Trump and bought Melania.
It's such a great.
Yeah, Melania coin definitely hurt Trump coin.
Yeah.
Sad.
Did you see that?
No,
that actually happened.
I heard about it.
Melania coin got announced and then Trump coin.
No,
crashed.
Trump coin's on the rise. See.
Of course, yeah. 24 hours. What is that? A single percentage point?
Go
to 1 month.
Oh yeah, no.
Go to 1
back.
month.
It's back. We're back.
There you go. You can see the
wait, hold on.
The Melania launch
Henry,
is right about there.
Slowly go back a little, like, and then just go from the left and slowly move to the right. Okay, like go to the left of the bar. Yeah, far left of the bar. Okay, now just slowly go from left to right here. Okay, just like mouse over. No. Fuck no. Oh God.
I thought Trump coin just was like a recent thing. That says November. Didn't this recently come out, or did he just start promoting it this time?
Yeah, no. There's no way Trump coin existed on October 2nd. This is probably the wrong graph. Google probably just got confused.
Oh yeah, there's Trump coin. There's Trump.
He probably has
some other shit.
There's
coin.
Mega Coin. You see the Catholic Church's Twitter account got hacked and started promoting Holy Coin.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Holy coin.
The
Damn.
country of Cuba
Oh
made a
my
coin.
God.
That was a rug pull.
Damn. You know,
Cuba coin.
Yeah, what do you guys because you went to Prosperity. Are you on the pro transhumanist side of things?
I'm
type
pro
things?
transhumanist, yeah.
I think transhumanism is evil and satanic.
hell yeah, brother.
I think that I think that, like, for example, I think it should be illegal to be immortal. I think that we should never let that happen, and because that is, like we said earlier, rationality. We know that we cannot know the fundamental truth about reality,
Yeah.
and playing God to that degree. But it comes down to like, well, God is just an idea that people came up with. It's nonsense anymore. It's like, no, I don't think so. I think there are truths in there that are real, and the whole idea of like we need to pursue immortality.
For every immortal
I don't
person,
know.
we should have
It's-
10 UHC shooters for them. Just kidding. Ha 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 ha.
Yeah,
Just a
there's
joke.
gonna be a lot of Luigi's over the next few years. The way things are going.
I go both ways in that. I like the future. That's one of my axioms.
You're like a
is being-
techno optimist.
I'm a techno optimist
He
axiomatically.
loves EAC.
I do.
I don't know. I mean,
I think it's the
ChatGPT's great, but not when it's AI surveilling cameras and stuff like that. I think that it's just inevitably going to be used for that, and you're going to get social credits.
I
for type
subscribe to the
systems.
Unabomber's theory on technology is great at first and gives you a lot of liberty, and then it slowly takes it away.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of.
And it's to the point where you're
This
going to need
fella's
4
out.
robot arms at your Amazon warehouse job.
yeah. That's that's potential. That's a potential.
This is the main difference between Brogan and I. I'm pessimaxed, so
Yeah.
I'm mostly against transhumanism because that is the direction I feel that we're headed, and also that there's almost no way around it. So I just want to complain about things as they happen. Gives me the most
Yeah.
opportunity to complain about
I
things.
gotta say the Optomax is better vibes
Yeah.
in terms of getting people on board. Everyone can look up to something and inspire it. So
I'm life affirming.
life affirming.
I'm
yeah.
life denying.
You're life denying.
No.
No good vibe. That's bad vibes. Bad vibes.
Stop.
And as we know, vibes superior to logic, right? We agree on that.
Yes, we agree on that.
Yeah.
And is there what's the best example of this in your experience that vibes beat logic for the autists in the audience?
I would say the fact that almost everyone's opinions on most things come from other people who they intuitively are like, yep, I trust this person.
Mm-hmm.
Like their doctor or a comedian making social commentary. Like, like Bo Burnham's commentary on the internet. That's all art. It's all vibes.
Yeah.
Right? Obviously, there's also this, I do regret to some degree positioning it as like vibes versus logic. Vibes is better. That's not how it works. It's more nuanced than that. I think our current culture is way too focused on the propositional and very autistic. And it's like, well, if something is true if it's logically coherent. That's what matters. It's like there's different ways of knowing. Like John Vervaeke is a guy who I've been influenced a lot by, and he talks about the 4 P's of knowing. One of them is propositional, and that's what everyone thinks of when they think of knowing. Then there's like procedural knowing, which is like knowing how to do something.
Could you describe propositional?
Propositional knowing is knowing that like cats are mammals or 2 + 2 = 4, like facts that you can manipulate or put on a piece of paper and use logical rules to kind of examine and follow through. Procedural knowing is like knowing how to do something. It's a skill. Like skills are not true or false, right? Propositions are true or false. And I think the vibes and intuitions are more in the procedural knowing category of like, oh, if I see someone who is skilled at something, there's an ancient part of me, a very limbic monkey brain part of me that's like, this person knows something.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they've been able to do this thing skillfully just implies that they know something. It's like, it's why does Joshua Cirella's podcast and Matty Healy have like a couple 100,000 views or something like that? It's like, because Matty Healy makes great music. And so people are just drawn to that.
Yeah.
And then the true autist will go, yes, that's a fact that I'm going to now include in my worldview. The cringe autist will be like, that's because those people are stupid and they don't think like me. It's like, okay, if you're trying to convince people, trying to achieve some sort of political goal or something, you have to recognize the role that intuition plays. And I don't think anyone disputes it. I mean, everyone knows this. It's like outside of the super Luciferian intellect type people, everyone knows that, like Dave Chappelle's social commentary is a driving factor in just culture.
Yeah.
Or Bo Burnham's or whatever. And that's all comedy. That's all art. That's all vibes. Humor is not a lot. Like the whole point of a joke is you can't logically break it down and explain why is this particular joke funny in the way that he delivered it. It's like, you get to a point where logic doesn't work. It's all vibes and delivering intuition.
Yeah.
And people will, and normies, quote unquote, and we're all normies in one domain or another. We'll just go, yeah, well, this person who I respect for reasons I can't really articulate said this, and so that's sort of my opinion on it, you know?
Rogan was trying to get funnier, and he was like, is there a book on how to be funny?
I'm all right on my own.
You can do some logic to it. Like there's comedy rules, like rule of 3.
Yeah.
Like if I walk into a room and I'm go, hey, look, Mike, looking really good. Nice. Hey, Jenna, nice shirt. Steve, great weather we having, you know?
Yeah.
It's like 1, 2, 3. There's like just some rhetorical that's just built into our intuition.
I've
for
just
some
I've
reason.
just never seen a comedian who was like, they're like, what's your secret to humor? And they're like, I read a great book.
That's good.
Yeah. So,
I love that Nick Mullen, you know, the 9/11 bit.
Mhm.
Nick Mullen, it's like
I like Nick Mullen a lot. Yeah.
What's his 9/11 bet?
he's like everything was all planned out. The CIA, they knew exactly what to do, but they forgot one fatal part that the next step in their big plan, the clues. Like, and his delivery is perfect.
Yep.
I think we all agree. You agree on this. This is something we definitely all agree on, and I think this is an internal. This is a two wolves that like most thinkers have, is whether everyone's stupid or everyone's smart, and this kind of like trusting the crowd or denying the crowd. And I lean towards trusting the crowd, like trusting the collective will of people to like find the truth together, rather than being like, oh, I'm like a maverick who's like.
Now, people will immediately point to it and say, well, look at Germany and Russia that went off the rails. Those are examples of you can't trust the crowd because the crowd collectively can go off the rails.
Yeah.
It's like, no strategy is perfect. But like, we're not talking about this always works. We're talking about between, you know, do you have a small elite that tells people what to think? Or do you do the wisdom of crowds? Do you test jokes for their broad appeal and stuff? Yeah, that's wisdom of crowds.
I'm the cracker wolf. Which wolf are you?
Nobody loves crackers more than I do.
Oh,
Nobody loves honkies more than us.
But that is like, I mean, that's been like an internal struggle in me my whole life. It's like, is everyone stupid or am I stupid?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, you know, I used to be very, I define myself by how intelligent I am relative to others, like, you know, in junior high, high school, early high school type stuff. And, you know, I'd be like, dude, people care about sports. Look at these fucking idiots.
Yeah,
dude.
right.
I care about politics. You know, I'm 13 years old. And I care about I'm important. And, you know, it's a vibes thing of like, it's almost impossible to articulate how cringy that is and how incompetent that makes you and how dumb that is in terms of trying to just achieve whatever goals you have for yourself. It's like, if you're going to go through life with that perspective, you will inevitably start thinking like, oh, these, you know, people are worse than me or dumber than me. And it's just like, you lose touch with what resonates with people and what not. You know?
Yeah.
If you're too close to ideas all the time, you don't understand how ideas like interact with people, you know?
No, 100%, man. 100%. Fuck, I had a point to make that I just lost in my head. Crowds. Oh, like logos on shirts, right? There's like studies to show that if you wear a shirt with a logo, people trust you more.
100%.
Because what is that signaling? It's signaling a collective understanding and like part of a larger culture.
Yep.
Right? Like you wear a Nike logo, like, oh, this guy, like there's an intuitive subconscious, like, oh, this guy is like a normal person.
Yep.
Right?
That's why they pay millions of dollars for brand sponsorships. Like, or for like a person, just like a Michael Jordan with Nike or whatever, or Air Jordans. It's like, everyone looks up to this person. The brand borrows that person's charisma, and then that has a psychological effect. Like, it's just like if Nike sponsor you, it doesn't matter how athletic the person is. Like, you just know that's a heuristic for this person's, you know, good athletically or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, how many Nike? They only have like fucking 4 shoe deals too.
I think that's Rene Girard's whole thing. Mimesis, theory of mimesis. Rene Girard. It's like basically every object has its emotional significance because other people are attributing stuff to it. Like the MAGA hat clearly represents Donald Trump. So the psychological significance of the hat is not in the hat itself.
I think the Hegelian e-girls tried to articulate this one to me to varying degrees of success.
He has it's a specific way of like model and desire and all that and stuff. But
there they are. I love these things.
Yeah,
they're trying to explain this.
I'm
for
into the like
40 minutes.
I like this is my autism part of it. If like especially the maps and meaning diagrams.
Yeah,
I love those. Yeah, and that's why I like making videos that are, using those like using the ideas as I understand them and trying to put them in a vibe that is more digestible or whatnot.
Memetic fitness. Memetic fitness. This is this idea. I think this is a term you came up with, right?
Yeah.
How fit a meme is to propagate. And you made a video referencing P.F. Jung's video on that.
Yeah.
So how would you articulate this memetic evolution, your theory on memetic evolution?
Memes and genes. I'm not talking about memes as just funny images. That's part of it.
The Dawkinian reference.
Yeah, Richard Dawkins' theory of memes, where what genes are to genetics, in that a gene is a discrete unit of genetic biological information. Memes are to memetics, in that a meme is a discrete unit of cultural information, conceptual information, maybe more broadly, and we can use our understanding of genes to understand memes.
Pull up P.F. Jung's memetic fitness video. It's on his channel somewhere. You can find it.
Yeah. Archetypal memes has maybe a diagram or something. Archetypal memetics, the ultimate sociological theory.
First, let's watch this Arby's.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, guys. The A&W guy.
Part of capitalism. Oh, by the way, late stage capitalism is another great meme. We're talking about like Zog, like kind of taken, although again, I agree, Zog is not really a right wing meme because the left is not a fan of what Israel's doing either.
Yeah.
But particularly like late stage capitalism, I think is a good meme in terms of like late stage capitalism strikes again.
I want to see the left use Zog and the right use late stage capitalism.
That would be beautiful.
Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Radical centrism, which is another important element, by the way. Radical centrism is it's not moderate. The arch enemy of the radical centrist is the moderate. Fuck moderate. Fuck status quo.
This is P.F. Jung trying to appeal to me specifically.
Yeah, no, it's true. We need to rob the radicals of their valid talking points. Yeah. So leave it here. This normal distribution. So basically, the idea is memetic fitness is like genetic fitness. The degree, like if something has high genetic fitness, it's more likely to replicate itself and spread, right? And then memetic fitness is how good an idea is, basically how transmissible it is, and stuff like that. And what this is showing is, the determining factor, at least in this framework, I've had a bunch of people email me and offer additions to the theory of applied sociology, so I'm looking forward to incorporating their insights. But basically, a meme is made powerful by borrowing from an archetypal category. So like an archetype is one of the it's like a fundamental category that all humans are wired to understand. Like every human was born from a mother, at least so far, before the transhumanists take over. But so we all have the conceptual concept of a mother. We all have the conceptual concept of threat, or friend, lover, so on. So there's these basic categories, and then the degree to which a meme is fit is the degree to which it properly borrows from the archetype, while still incorporates like relatable aspects to it. So if you just have a very archetypal story like, one day the boy was in the village and he found a magical sword and then he slayed Emperor Zog, it's like, that's only going to be so impactful. But if you have something like Lord of the Rings, which is like battle of literal good and evil, orcs versus humans, that's very archetypal because that's close to the battle of good and evil. That's on the archetypal side. But then you have something like Marriage Story, which is like, there is no good and evil. It's just there's good and evil within each of us, right? It's a complex kind of relationship. And then you can have things that are in between. So like Game of Thrones is more gray than Lord of the Rings, right? There's more moral gray. I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones at all.
Yeah.
It's more morally gray than Lord of the Rings. So it's less archetypal. And then like the Joker is a more like psychological, it's like a realistic depiction of how a person falls into that, versus the Dark Knight Joker, who's like effectively a god, right? He's immune to pain. He has no backstory, right? Because he tells the different story about how he got these scars, and so, memetic fitness is the degree to which a meme is able to spread through a population. It needs to borrow from archetypes, right? Like oppressor versus oppressed. Yeah, is an ancient, like the abuser to the abused. It's like that's a very powerful emotional thing. And so memetic fit. You can evaluate any given meme on the degree to which it embodies archetypal behavior.
So which ones do the best? The ones that embody more archetypal behavior?
Yeah. Well, so the thesis that I subscribe to would be you can categorize the landscape of archetypes in different ways. But let's say there's 6 fundamental archetypes. which I don't want. We won't go deep into it. The video explains it, but there's six. Let's say there's 6 fundamental archetypes, like positive culture, negative culture. You know, society can be good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Nature can be good or bad.
I've seen the Schizo-Peterson diagram.
Yeah, exactly. Which is a great diagram. It's my favorite one. The best memes are those memes that are able to encapsulate all of those archetypes. So if you just tell a story about how society is evil and the environment is good and individuals are corrupt individuals bringing horrible culture into a clean environment, you've borrowed from some archetypes, and that's a powerful story because it's borrowing from archetypes. Like Avatar is that. It's the fucking humans come and they fuck up this, pristine world with the tree of souls and all that. That's one story. Then you can do the flip side, which is like the Western myth, the heroic individual bringing culture to the untamed wilderness or whatnot. But each of those are borrowing half the story. You need to combine them, and then you get a complete story, so to speak. And that's, Peterson would call that a religious story. And so practically, it's very helpful. Like when if you're watching like let's say like a documentary that's political. Having that framework allows you to say, okay, what's been left out here? Like there's this, I've seen this white nationalist propaganda thing where it's like, here's all that whites are, it's like heroes, like heroic things that white people have done, putting the flag up in World War II and stuff like that. And then it's all this music of like white families, just like super nostalgic music or whatnot. And it's like, oh, okay, it's clearly appealing to the archetype of like, oh, family and, blah, 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 all that stuff. What is it leaving out? It's like all the horrible shit that fucking, other white people have done that they've, the people who made that documentary or propaganda video, would they themselves agree? Mm-hmm. So it's purposely leaving stuff out. But but memetic fitness, and there's a bunch of different factors to memetic fitness. Like humor is not easy to categorize and stuff like that. Yeah, like that image can invoke like, oh yeah, look at that, the happy family. Well, what are you leaving out with that? Well, all the horrible.
Yeah, that guy in the corner definitely fucking like raped his niece or something.
Yeah, that's the meme. There's a meme like that where it's like it's that type of image, and it's like I'm beating my wife. I'm on 6 things of Xanax or whatever. It's like, and that juxtaposition is like, oh, here's this archetypal image of like great stuff contrasted with here's all the things, the other part of the story that they left out. That's why it's like, oh,
wait,
it's funny.
What are some contemporary examples of a meme that incorporates all the archetypes?
Well, so a meme can refer to like an entire like an ideology is a meme.
Yeah.
So there's like the image, the single image can be a meme, but the entire ideology. I mean, I would say most religions encapsulate this. Like we were talking about at the very beginning. Like there's a reason that every religion has hedonism as a sin. It's because that's true. That's part of the archetypal truth. If you just pursue your own hedonistic pleasures and say, well, there's no God, there's no morality, so I might as well pursue this. Look what it'll lead to. So a religion that encapsulates all the aspects, the good of man, the bad of man, the good of nature and all that.
Whereas, of course, a Randian objectivist.
I would say, just real quick to answer your question. Yeah. Radical centrism is a meme that encapsulates all of them because that's the whole point. Is like if you say you're conservative, you're implying that progressivism is wrong to some degree.
Yeah.
Which it's like only insofar as it doesn't encapsulate your views. Sorry.
Kind of thinking about like Nietzsche too. Nietzsche, like the spoke Zarathustra, to me would capture all those archetypes.
How? Nietzsche.
It's the beauty of nature, the beauty of like nature as it is, the beauty of man as it is.
Explain thus spoke Zarathustra to me.
It's kind of hard to. It's a hard book to just like explain.
You can't do it in like 2 sentences.
No, it's like a poem.
Guy walks up a mountain and then he speaks. His name is Zarathustra.
It's like a poem.
Zarathustra. 2 things.
Propositionally true.
One, the Randian objectivist would say that pursuing your own hedonism leads to great works, and the great men, they all pursued their own hedonism and they conquered, and that's what drives history. 2,
rationality.
You made a video about the memetic fitness for Dead Ideologies.
Yeah.
And how did that? What was your frame for that?
My frame for that is that, I mean, it's sort of like I was listening to the etymology nerd. He's like a big linguistics TikToker. Went on Alex O'Connor's show, and they talked. He was talking about words. He used this really interesting example where he was like, "Cancel, selfie, and on fleek are all euphemisms that popped up at the exact same time." cancel and selfie have like literal applications and mean something specific that didn't have a word before, and they've stuck around. On fleek means nothing and has no application, so it's died. No one says
Didn't
on
on fleek mean like that outfit's on fleek, like it looks cool?
Yeah, but like we already had
Gas or whatever.
Yeah, we already
dope or sick or
yeah, we already had euphemisms for that, but we didn't have a word for like a selfie. Like there was no I'm gonna take a photo of myself with my front facing camera. You know, that doesn't work.
Yeah.
So I think my conclusion with ideologies is like they just need to be applicable to people and have like some sort of pragmatic outcome.
Yeah.
And like the meme adoption curve of like ideologies that have like the highest applicability will take off, and ones that don't will just sort of
the ones that are actually reflective of reality.
Yeah,
because it provides the person an advantage to them believing it. It's like, you know, if you believe everyone who voted for Bernie Sanders is a fucking horrible person, okay, good luck. Go through life like that and see what kind of friendships you break or opportunities you deny yourself because of this arbitrary, incorrect belief.
Yeah.
But if you believe, like, as I do, for example, a lot of political extremism is rooted in psychological trauma. It's like, okay, what does that belief afford me? It's like, it's a level of, you make your racist jokes, I'll signal, I'll reciprocate, fine, okay, haha. And then we get into, so like, why, what do you think about that? Like, you say the fucking Jews run the world or whatever, but it's like, you have smoked weed every day since I've been here and you've never gone to the gym. So why are, like, it's like, oh, interesting. Okay, so this is just cope for that.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas it's like, no, anti-Semites are literal Nazis that need to be gunned down and all that stuff. It's like, okay, it's very... See where that ideology leads you.
You watched Dear Kelly, didn't I? I didn't see.
I did see Dear Kelly.
I didn't see Dear Kelly yet.
Channel 5.
He's building a.
Oh, I do. I want to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly the whole thing of that, right? Yeah. I haven't seen it.
Very good documentary.
Because this whole
it seems so. It's like it's also my. I don't know how you guys deal with this, but there's certain things that seem so goddamn obvious to me. Like, for example, like it's like a lot of this extremism is trauma. And you just need to like address it as such and not so obviously alienate people who say disgusting things. And a lot of people disagree. Certainly a lot of people in my comment section from my Destiny debates disagree, but that's fine. Have you guys gotten, what's like the worst reaction you've gotten to a video ever, like comment wise? Like in terms of people shitting on you and stuff?
You go first, because I think yours is funny. The 4chan thing.
Which one?
The cerebral thing.
Oh,
that was like a reaction.
That was in my comment section, but there's like a,
or just in general.
When I was first, this is the one that really stuck with me, because when I was first blowing up, a new internet character, you get a lot of different perspectives. It's very fresh.
Yeah.
I get a lot of stuff, specifically like a lot of stuff from left wingers, but like the stuff on the right was a lot of like, this guy's a Jew, I want to kill this Jew. And I was like, that stuff that never stuck with me. But the thing that did stick with me is there was a 4chan post in this comment thread about me where everyone was like, some people liked me, some people hated me, but the what he said was like, you can tell he's a Jew because,
or you can tell he's not a Jew.
You can tell he's not a Jew. He was basically saying like my content was cerebral, like that's the word he used, and it was like, it doesn't mean it's intelligent or charismatic or funny, but it's very cerebral. So I was like, that's true, like. And he's like, and he's like, like goy content is like you're bashing your head against a wall and jumping into a pool, which seems to imply that
I love fucking goy content.
I lean Jewish.
That's funny.
But yeah, like cerebral is that's a good insult.
I thought they were claiming you were like, you can tell he's not white because that's what he would make, but you can tell he's not Jewish because he's not smart enough.
Right.
So he's like some inferior in between.
Right. Yeah.
Nice.
Neither Jew nor goy.
The ultimate homelessness. Yeah. I'm homeless in that regard.
I will say there's one that stuck with me that bothers me because it kind of gets like an internal paradox I have that I can't like think my way out of. So I made a video about the artist Cause, and I made a video on what like avant-garde art is and how art gets co-opted into like being a tool from the elite. And there's a point of it, the art movement Bauhaus. It was like,
heard of it.
Yeah, it was like furniture and like interior design that came out of a school in Weimar, Germany. And it was during like the Weimar Republic. Like this is kind of like all the culture that came out. Bauhaus is like one of the biggest pieces of culture that came out of Weimar, Germany. And in the video, I'm like, oh, look at this culture. It was so degenerate. All they produced was like furniture and interior decoration. They couldn't produce anything of meaning. They just produced like meaningless furniture, like meaningless objects. Which I completely disagree with, and I disagree with it at the time I made it. I felt like I was just trying to steelman my argument I was making for the totality of the video. And people have always called me out on that. They're like, this is not what Bauhaus was. You mischaracterized Bauhaus. And I did. And it gets to this kind of thing I have internally where like, I'm like a big Mark Fisher fan, and like talk about like late capitalism. I know it's like a fucking overused, but just like the endless like reproduction of like symbols and advertisements and consumer culture, I don't like. But at the same time, I do like it because it's culture itself. Like if someone has a Rolex, right? I can take this like Fisherian perspective of like, this is a status symbol. It's completely meaningless. It only has sign value. It has no use value. It's a product of a decadent society. Or I can say like, no, this is my culture. And like, if this is what people want. People want a Rolex. They want to make enough money to get it. Yeah. Therefore, I want that too because I want to be part of the culture I exist in and venerate my culture.
That's why a lot of bread tubers complaining about late capitalism love their Funko Pops. And it's why Mark Fisher hung from a rope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, I can talk about like consumerism as much as I want, but at the same time, it's like, well, this is like, I also love my culture. I love the West. I love the culture I exist within. I'm optimistic about it. And I'm not going to be, to deny your society is antisocial, I'm never going to do that. And that's a big internal, that's a big paradox I have within me.
You can still
I'm headed towards
obviously
the rope.
You still critique it and all that internally, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's not fundamentally evil or whatnot, but
well, that's what's, I mean, if you look at like, you know, Hassan Piker's biggest criticism is that he's like a champagne socialist, right? Is you get like, as someone who like so much of my videos are me critiquing culture and critiquing consumerism, and then still being someone who like, no, if I had the income, I'd buy a Rolex. If I had the income, I'd buy, I love fucking I love nice cars. I love designer fashion. I love fucking fancy whiskeys. I love all that shit. And then for my audience to see me critique consumer culture, then be like, oh, guy, like I have like a fucking expensive bourbon collection at home. I love bourbon.
Yeah.
I do like bourbon tastings. I'm like a bourbon sommelier.
Yeah.
As a side hustle. Right? Those things don't coincide, and they seem like hypocritical to the audience. And I find I don't know how to bridge that gap.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so do you think that you're better off having been called out on that, or
yeah, because I'd never do it again. Because that was one of the only times in a video where like I said something I knew I didn't believe in. It's like at least it was something that was like mischaracterizing an art movement and not something serious.
I'm more cerebral than ever.
Do you think you did harm with that video?
No, I think the point of the video was good. I made it like a year and a half ago, so I don't really like, I can't think of my argument, the exact argument I made.
Sure.
But I was just talking about like the uselessness of visual art now, and like using Cause as an example, who's just like basically makes objects that people buy and sell, and like their existence is perpetuated by their ROI. But he's like one of the biggest visual artists alive right now, and it's just, to me, is very, very characteristic of a culture that has lost meaning, where like our art objects don't give us any truth anymore. It's just return on investment.
You're making a fundamental point, but then you're like,
to make that point, I mischaracterized Bauhaus, which I shouldn't have done, because I was like, I think my example was like, Weimar decadent society collapsed, and here's the culture and the art this decadent society produced, therefore it's bad, which I disagree with.
Yeah, I mean, that's and I mean, I 100% believe then that you and everyone is better off you having made that video, made that mistake, and then getting called out for it, and then growing from that.
Yeah.
That's my justification or rationalization for, like, you know, if I go on and say stupid shit or say something that isn't true, which I have to go back and see exactly what specific misinformation I spread on Destiny's podcast. I'm happy to ask open-ended questions and say, you know, shit that's not really that crazy at the end of the day. But it's like, yeah, a lot of, again, it goes back to, I'm more than happy to put a video out that is susceptible to like that type of criticism, because then I remember, you know, okay, I made this mistake this one time, and now I know how to grow from it. And I think, you know, if I am to be doing this long term, that's inevitable. There's no way I could become the kind of person I'm trying to become unless I do that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of leaning into it now. Like, I'll happily fall on my face and do that, and we'll see. Or I'll become a fucking neo-Nazi, like Destiny said. He said 2 years. I give it 2 years.
2 years to be a neo-Nazi. Famous last words from the guy who gooned too close to the sun.
Gooned too close to the sun, dude. Hedonism. Gooning is just hedonism in a better memetic format. That's what it is. Archetypally.
I like Turkey Tom is never goon. I have never killed myself. I think me and him are just like really fundamentally aligned on like life affirmation.
Yeah, Turkey Tom, who we're gonna have by the studio soon.
Yeah, he's gonna be
the next guest after PF Jung.
Will he be?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Turkey Tom's our next guest. Yeah.
Nice. How long have we been going for, Henry?
I like not actually. Wait, before you tell me, 1 hour, 1 hour 30. Damn.
I was like, wait, you said 1 hour? You held it for a second. Yeah, I feel like we've been going.
Time flies.
I like. Usually we have the the waveforms facing us, and I always see the time. I actually love a lot having the time
Not knowing
available.
how
Yeah,
long, yeah.
because I keep going. I feel like
Yeah, we could easily do a 3-hour pod with you, but out of respect for Henry's time, we probably won't.
yeah.
That's fair.
I do like Jordan Peterson has this whole thing about conversations have like a narrative arc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they can come back to a point or whatnot. We just kind of did there with Destiny gooning there at the end.
We brought it full
the
circle.
archetypal gooning is hedonism. you know?
Yeah.
And there it goes.
I
I don't know. Other things on your mind or topics?
I feel like I had more stuff. I don't know if I had more stuff about Destiny that was actually interesting.
We covered Zog. All my dogs hate Zog.
Oh, there was
All
one.
my dogs are mogging on Zog.
All my dogs are mugging on Zog. There's I think this is like really stuck with me because I think it's interesting to talk about like treating your friends on the internet as like actual friends and like trying to hold everyone to the same standard in your life. So Kyla on Turkey Tom's stream, kind of like defending her position was like, people look at me as an extension of Destiny,
Not so
and
erudite.
I'm an orbit. Yeah, not so erudite. And I'm an orbiter. And you know, as if we had this really disconnected online relationship, and then he like goes and at this point, the only confirmed thing is that he leaked someone else's nudes. With the nature of the video being consensual or not is still up in the air.
Sure.
And she said that for me, if my friend who had no following, who was just my friend, leaks someone else's news to somebody else, I wouldn't cut them out of my life. I would like morally reprehend them, but that does not end a friendship. And I thought like, I agree with that. And it's good to hold like...
That's my whole thing of like someone says fucking crazy anti-Semitic shit or whatnot. It's like, well, my choices are cut them out and then further isolate them from society, which does them no favors.
Yeah.
Or be the person to be like, bro, you say fucking crazy shit. Let's get to the stuff underneath it. Like,
and that's more conducive to a better world to treat your friends with that sort of reverence.
Yeah.
But she also did say if it does get confirmed the video was filmed unconsensually, she's done.
Right.
So I'll give her that. But I just thought it was an interesting perspective to have.
My girl, she scrolls on the TikTok and she sees like sad puppies and she's like, oh. And my version of that is I scroll on my X feed and I see like tweets from people who say that they are like not going to family dinner due to political differences because they've been cut out. That's my I like do that as my tragedy porn.
It's so sad. Oh my god, yeah. It is so sad.
There's one really sad one of a Trump supporter who was like, my family uninvited me. It was a post to a QAnon forum. And he was like, my family uninvited me from Christmas dinner this year. So if anyone wants to post the food that they're eating.
Oh god.
Yeah. Or and then there's like the opposite of like Democrats being exiled as well from Republican households. Sad.
But then in that situation, I would say like if you don't know the full story. I'm assuming that obviously his the entirety of his family and social networks on one page, and he's on the other page, right? It should be like I think at that point he would be doing something that's completely antisocial. That like you would need to work on. Like his family might have a reason to cut him off. If his entire family unanimously agrees this guy is just a net negative to our dinner.
Is Sneeko being uninvited from family dinners because he's a base Republican, or is it because he's an antisocial asshole?
Yeah. Don't be. I think
it's both ways.
That's another good axiom. Like don't be antisocial.
Yeah,
like you can follow that and reach a positive conclusion almost every time.
Don't be a freak. That's my freak left, freak because that's nice about freak left and freak right. It's not like that. It's not providing a specific like idea that they believe in. It's just are you a freak or are you not?
Yeah,
you can be a freak in many different ways. And I think
there's some good no's here. Never goon. Never kill yourself.
Yeah, never goon. Don't be a freak.
Don't be a freak. Those are like you could chase that. You could your life would end.
We should write a book. Call it 12 rules for life.
Yeah.
Call it 12 memes for life.
12
Never goon. Yeah, don't be a freak. That'd actually be not bad.
Yeah, 12
axioms for the internet or
12,
something.
Fuck, man, that's great.
I need to get back more into my artistic videos a little bit. I do autistic videos and artistic videos.
Yes.
And that might be a good artistic one. 12 memes for life or something.
Damn, yeah.
Never gooning. That's a good one.
Never goon is a good one.
But to the point about like not cutting out people because they do horrible shit. Yeah, I agree. I will say, so this is interesting. I mean, this is the first time I'm around other people who make YouTube videos. I mean, I know Rowan back from Dallas, but like, I don't have anyone in my life who is also a public figure that I would talk to. So, and there's like all these weird things of like, well, okay, so I talked to Destiny 3 times. Do I now have an obligation to like comment on this?
Yeah.
Like, am I enabling this behavior if I don't make a statement or something? It's like, you could see arguments, but there's no playbook for this, and yeah, I with like Kyla and all that, like she had a business with him. She was she was trying to bring Dr. Destiny out. Okay?
Yeah.
But she couldn't stop
Yeah.
Mr. Borelli from
It's another
sticking his dick wherever
horrible
it needs to
tragedy
go.
because the whole point of bridges is to build bridges. Get some of the people that are in Destiny's orbit to be friendly with them, and that ended pretty quickly just due to the very reason why they needed to have a program like Bridges in the first place. I mean, there's all kinds of stories of people who really should be friends with Destiny, but just like he's so disagreeable, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Like
I mean-
there's no reason why a lot of people shouldn't be friends with Destiny, but it's just the way he is fundamentally.
Yeah.
It's like, what is the line between enablement and compassion, or enablement and not, like, are you enabling someone or are you throwing them a light, like trying to not isolate them and whatnot? It's like all case by case, and who knows at the end of the day, but
Yeah. It's
never good.
Yeah, never goon. It's not. I don't feel bad for him. It is just I'm sad that there's that hole is now open like that. There needs to be another like liberal character who's going to come along because like so much
The
of
left needs a
liberal Joe Rogan.
A liberal
would you
Joe
say?
Rogan. Well, JJ McCullough is going to do it for Canada.
Oh God.
yeah Canadian
Canadian
Conservative
neoliberal.
Party Joe Rogan.
Who would be? Maybe we
Josh.
can-
My money's on Josh.
Joshua Cicero.
I think
I like Josh.
Doomskull's fucking great. Josh is fucking great. He's
He's
paragon
jacked.
of masculinity.
Yeah, he's the perfect man.
yeah.
Joshua Cicero is
No,
the perfect
Aragorn
man.
is the perfect man.
And I like Josh. Josh is what in his mid to late his mid to late 30s. Like he spent, which is so. I think maybe like Destiny's one of his flaws is that he started his career so young.
Yeah.
Like you found yourself on the internet. Josh is a real person.
Yeah, I
you
think
play- you play
one of the
this-
flaws with Destiny is that he's a bad person. And one of the benefits of
It's
Josh
Josh.
is that he's a good man.
Oh yeah.
So
I
I
like
mean,
Josh.
just going back to vibes, maybe Destiny's better at debates, but
well-
Joshua Cicero is a good person.
Sum total. I mean, it's impossible to know, but like maybe I think there is an answer to this, but we just can't know it for sure. But if you had to bet, has Destiny done more? Has Destiny been a net positive for the left, or because of what's going on now, is it ultimately now a net negative?
Oh, I think he's been positive overall.
I would go positive.
I could see it both ways. I mean, it's Dr. Destiny, Mr. Borelli. It's like yes, obviously, like he's put a lot of good, but it's like, but also think about now that every gooner, not every gooner, now that every right winger can say any good point that Destiny's ever made. Oh, you're quoting a sex addict or something like that, or
Yeah.
a sex pest or something. It's just like
It'll always happen. It'll
that's
always
true,
happen
that's
on
true.
either
And Jordan
side.
Peterson, you could say the same about Jordan Peterson, where it's like, oh well, he went off the rails on some shit. It's like that's true.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It remains to be seen, but like, don't be a freak, and that shit's freakish behavior. And,
Yeah, I mean, if you hate someone, like if Vosh is making a good point, a lot of things that Vosh said you can clip, and it's he's defending child porn here, write him off.
yeah.
well, and that's
That's what happens when you stream 12 hours a day.
legitimately. It's like, and
You're
that's
gonna say some shit.
like Nick Fuentes talks about how he's like, I was really put on Israel's hit list or whatever, like when I was 19 or whatever, like saying crazy shit, which I have sympathy for that of like, damn, 19-year-old moron says some shit. Now he's like condemned to a life of, well, this is his only thing he can do. And like, would it have been better had someone extended an arm and be like, yeah, I say you crazy, you say fucking crazy shit, but like, would it have been better? But now he's like, well, what incentive does he possibly have to walk away from that insane shit? you
Yeah.
know? And it's like,
Yeah, no incentive.
there's no shortage of examples of people who've said crazy shit when they were younger and then became like people that we revere. This
So
is
true.
going to be a dangerous comparison here, but like, and I'm just using it for the principle of the thing, but like that's what Malcolm X was. Malcolm X was like, I'm glad white people have been killed. Like a whole plane crashed filled with people from Alabama. He's like, Allah is good, all is great stuff. And then he ends up being like a guy fighting for racial unity, like all this different stuff, which of course they kill him then after that. But,
yeah, if you want to steal
Nick Fuentes is funny. That's
Yeah.
the worst part about him.
he's charming.
That's the thing. This is it's like with Andrew Tate. It's like the worst part of Andrew Tate is not his misogyny. No, of course not. Or because that misogyny you can find anyway.
Yeah.
The worst part of Andrew Tate is that he's funny.
Yeah.
And then he spreads the misogyny. Same with Nick Fuentes. Worst part of Nick Fuentes is not the anti-Semitism. It's the fact that he's funny.
Yeah.
And then that causes people to be like, damn.
Funny,
Vibes.
winner's smile, probably cordial in real life, I would imagine. I
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who talks to Andrew Tate always says like, oh, he was like an amazing gentleman, like so kind.
I don't know that about Nick Fuentes.
I think Nick Fuentes is a bad example.
I haven't heard of any anecdotes. Like that's kind of how I. Would Nick Fuentes be a good hang?
Well,
I don't know.
Destiny hung out with him.
Yeah,
chicken and waffles, right?
The two worst hangs in fucking in the world. Hung
worst
out.
blunt rotation.
Yeah, the worst blunt rotation.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well,
anyway, we love Destiny. We all love Destiny here.
Well, listen, if Kanye West can say I love Hitler, then we can say we love Destiny.
But yeah, and we love Kyla.
We love Kyla.
Good person.
Kyla's a good person. I'll defend Kyla. She's a
Kyla.
very, very nice person.
Yeah.
And if it comes, I
can attest that Kyla's a good person because I met Kyla.
Yeah,
and I hung out with Kyla, and she was the best of the Destiny group. Like she was the kindest-hearted, purest person.
Yeah,
she was a real human being.
Yeah, she seems the most radical centrist. I like that.
And I'm gonna adopt her position here. I think if it was a consensually filmed video that Destiny leaked, that Destiny sent in a goon raised, and he can kind of atone for that and apologize.
Yeah,
fair enough. I'd invite him on. I'd probably see him again at some point in the future. I don't know if I'd strongly associate with him, but
I'd strongly associate with him, and I'd defend all the sex crimes.
There you go. But if it's just the unconsensual filming of the video, and now the other one there's another allegation of an unconsensual video.
You should just prepare it to if you're associating with Destiny, like every 3 to 5 months some shit's like this is gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
Yeah,
this is uniquely bad. This is the worst thing to happen in his career.
Criminal charges.
I hear this every time. He'll be back.
He'll be back. This is bad.
This is the criminal charge, right? That she's pressing.
There's a civil suit
and there's
a criminal suit from two different girls over the civil suit's over the leaking. The criminal suit is over the unconsensual.
You know another
filming.
special little guy who had a lot of suits against him, Donald J. Trump, and he's
True.
fine.
Yeah.
He just pardoned himself.
Donald Trump
pardons Destiny. Fuck it.
God, man. Well, what's the real?
Yeah,
what's the real horseshit? We have Patreon questions that.
Oh, okay.
We'll do that. That's like 20 minutes after this.
Perfect.
Yeah. But
that's what the Daily Wire does, by the way. Every time Jordan Pearson interviews.
Yeah, we're Daily
Wire.
Now
that we finished the interview, I want to give a chance to. We'll ask some questions from the Daily Wire Plus subscriptions, and I hope you guys subscribe. The Daily Wire is a fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jordan.
Our Patreon's a fantastic service.
It is a fantastic service.
Run by Israel.
We just keep adding value.
Yeah.
We keep adding value, and we'll always add value to the Patreon. I think we've done a great job of. If you're a day one YouTube subscriber, the show has not changed.
Uh-huh.
If you're a Patreon subscriber, you're gonna be getting Netflix worth of fucking content.
I will say, having watched, because it's the first time I'm meeting either of you guys, having watched Horseshoe enough, it's like I feel zero difference. It was like exactly coming in the conversation we were having yesterday about all. It was like this is. I think the ultimate meme, the ultimate vibe is authenticity. It's just like this is what I believe, and this is what I'm gonna say. And
yeah. I agree 100%.
Yeah. Or it's Zog. One of those two.
That's the ultimate vibe is Zog.
The ultimate vibe. Is it Zog?
We could be okay, wait, sorry, before one quick tangent.
Mm-hmm.
So people say there's this theory on the internet that Ellen was a meme filter. Like the show Ellen was a meme.
DeGeneres?
Ellen DeGeneres was a meme filter. So any meme that got big enough, let's say Hawk Tuah Girl's a great example.
Yeah.
And
or Damn Daniel. You remember Damn Daniel?
Damn Daniel. Yeah.
Back at it again with the white van. Saucy, dude.
Or the hot Target guy.
Yep.
Goes on Ellen. It's always Ellen was the peak, and they die after that.
Sell your stocks in the meme.
Ellen's gone.
Yeah.
And now there's no filter anymore,
Oh,
and these people just get bigger and bigger.
That's a good theory.
Yeah.
We could be that for insincerity though. You come on the show, if you're insincere, you won't survive. You don't survive. Whatever happens once you're on Horseshoe Theory.
Yeah, that would be a valuable service for sure.
We killed the Ageli Negroes.
They killed themselves.
No one.
They killed themselves. We gave them the platform to kill themselves.
You give them the rope.
We'll give you the platform to kill yourself. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. But never kill yourself.
Never kill yourself.
And don't be a freak.
Never kill yourself.
Never
Unless
goon.
you come on our show and you're inauthentic, then we give you a rope.
Yeah.
Yes. So what is the horseshoe theory for this episode?
Don't goon.
No, don't goon.
If you want to vibe out, don't goon.
Hedonism and depression end the same.
Hedonism, depression.
Maximum happiness, maximum sadness, both end in some form of life-denying act.
Sure.
Yep.
Cool.
I'll take it.
All right.
Amen.
And if you want to watch the rest of this episode, subscribe to patreon.com/horseshoe theory.
So you can watch us kill him.